The night before Ada's wedding was supposed to be peaceful. The compound was alive with laughter and music. Relatives from faraway towns filled the house. Neighbors brought gifts, and the smell of jollof rice and fried chicken floated through the air. The old bungalow in Abuja had never been that lively since her father remarried. But as the clock struck 11:45 p.m., the joy in Ada's heart began to fade. She sat quietly under the mango tree behind the house, her wedding gown hanging inside her room. The night breeze brushed against her skin, and she closed her eyes, trying to calm the strange uneasiness rising in her chest. She couldn't explain it. It was as if someone was watching her. Then she heard it, a soft whisper. At first it sounded like the wind, but then it called her name. Ada. She froze. The voice was calm, gentle, and painfully familiar. She looked around, but there was no one there. The noise from the celebration inside the house seemed far away now. Her heartbeat quickened. "Who's there?" she whispered shakily. No reply, only silence. Then again, the voice came, clearer this time. "Ada, my daughter." Ada gasped, her hands trembling. The voice, it was her mother's. The same soft tone she remembered as a child. The same woman who used to sing her to sleep before she died 20 years ago. Ada's eyes filled with tears. "Mummy," she whispered, "is it really you?" The air grew cold. The mango leaves rustled, though there was no wind. And from the shadows behind the fence, a faint light began to form, soft, white, and glowing like mist. Slowly it took shape, a woman in a flowing wrapper, her face calm but sad. Ada's mouth fell open. She could barely breathe. It was her mother, Oje Daniel. Her heart pounded so loud she could hear it. "Mummy, how is this possible?" Ada whispered. "You died when I was 5. The spirit's eyes glowed faintly as she stepped closer. "My child," she said softly, "listen carefully. Grace, your stepmother. She plans to end your life tonight." Ada's whole body went cold. "Well, what?" "She wants to poison you," the spirit continued. "She has already bought the substance. She will pour it into your drink in the kitchen, the one she will claim she made for you, to bless your marriage." Ada shook her head, refusing to believe it. "No. No, Mummy. Grace may not like me, but she wouldn't." "She would," the spirit said firmly. "I have watched her for years. Her hatred burns deeper than you know. She envies the love your father still has for you. Tonight she wants to take it all away." Ada's breath hitched. Tears rolled down her cheeks. "What should I do?" "Do not drink anything from her," her mother's voice whispered. "When she enters the kitchen, follow her quietly. Take your phone. Record what you see." Ada tried to step closer, but the spirit was fading. "Wait, don't go, please." "Be brave, Ada," her mother's voice echoed. "For tomorrow, the truth will save you." Then, silence. The light disappeared. The air grew warm again. Ada collapsed to her knees, shaking. She looked around, half expecting someone to jump out and laugh, to tell her it was a dream. But she knew it wasn't. The smell of her mother's old perfume, the same lavender scent she remembered, still lingered in the air. She ran inside, grabbed her phone, and crept toward the kitchen. From the hallway, she could already see Grace standing near the gas cooker. She was dressed in a fine wrapper and blouse, her hair wrapped neatly in a scarf. Her back was turned. Ada's heart raced. Grace opened a small nylon bag, poured something into a glass cup, and stirred it slowly with a spoon. The liquid shimmered slightly under the kitchen light. Ada raised her phone and started recording, her hand trembling so badly that she almost dropped it. Then Grace's phone rang. She turned around quickly. Ada ducked behind the wall. "Hello?" "Yes, everything is ready," Grace said quietly into the phone. "By tomorrow morning, she will be gone. No one will ever suspect me. Ada gasped silently. Her heart thumped like a drum in her chest. Her mother had been right. As Grace left the kitchen, Ada slipped away and stopped recording. Her hands were sweaty. She stared at the video. It was all there. The poison, the call, the confession. But her relief didn't last long. A knock came on her door moments later. It was Grace. She smiled sweetly, holding a tray with the same glass of drink. "My dear Ada," she said softly, "I made this just for you. It will calm your nerves before your big day." Ada's lips trembled as she stared at the glass. Her mother's voice echoed in her head. "Do not drink anything from her." She forced a shaky smile. "Thank you, Ma," she said, taking it carefully. Grace watched her closely. "Go on, drink." Ada lifted the glass slowly, her hands still trembling, and suddenly placed it back on the tray. "Wait," she said. "Before I drink this, I want everyone to be here. My friends, Daddy, everyone." Grace frowned. "Why?" Ada smiled faintly. "Because I want to thank you in front of everyone." Her voice was calm, but her heart was pounding. Grace hesitated, then nodded stiffly. "All right." As Grace turned to leave, Ada's eyes glistened with tears, half fear, half gratitude. Her mother had saved her once again from beyond the grave. Tomorrow she would expose her. But that night, as Ada sat on her bed holding her phone, her heart trembled with a strange mix of courage and fear. What if Grace found out she had recorded her? What if she tried again before morning? Outside, thunder rumbled faintly in the distance. The night wind blew through the curtains. Ada turned off the light and whispered, "Thank you, Mummy." Then she lay back down, holding her phone tightly, unaware that someone was standing quietly outside her window, watching. The morning sun broke over Abuja like gold spilled across the sky. Birds chirped from the mango tree, and the house buzzed with excitement. Relatives moved about, singing and laughing as they prepared for the big day, Ada's wedding day. But inside her small room, Ada sat quietly, her eyes fixed on the phone in her hand. She had barely slept. The events of the night replayed in her head over and over, her mother's ghostly voice, the whisper in the dark, and the video she had secretly recorded. Her hands trembled slightly as she replayed the clip again. There was no doubt Grace had poisoned the drink. The evidence was clear. But what now? Her heart ached. This was the woman her father loved. The same woman who had smiled at her wedding rehearsal, calling her my dear daughter. Ada wanted to cry, but she also wanted justice. She could not let her mother's warning go in vain. Then came a knock on the door. Ada, her best friend Kioma, called. "You're not even dressed. The makeup artist is here." Ada quickly hid her phone under her pillow. "I'm coming," she said, forcing a smile as she stood. Chioma entered wearing a bright Ankara dress and a wide grin. "My bride, today is your day. You should be smiling, not sitting there like a ghost." Ada smiled weakly. "I'm just nervous," Kioma chuckled. "Every bride is. Now hurry up. Your stepmother said she made a special drink for you. She wants to bring it here soon." Ada froze. The words hit her like thunder. She forced herself to act normal. "Tell her I'll come to the sitting room myself. I want everyone to be there when I drink it." Kioma looked confused. "Why everyone?" Ada took a deep breath. "You'll understand soon, Kioma. Just trust me." By noon, the compound was filled with guests. White tents stood tall across the yard, flowers decorated the walkway, and the sound of drums echoed faintly from the distance. The air smelled of fried meat and perfume. Mr. Daniel, Ada's father, stood in a crisp white kaftan. He looked proud, though a little emotional. Ada was his only child from his first marriage. His late wife, Oge, had meant the world to him. Seeing Ada in her wedding gown made his eyes glisten with tears. "You look just like your mother," he whispered when she stepped out. "She would have been so proud of you." Ada's throat tightened. She wanted to tell him everything, but not yet. The time wasn't right. Then Grace walked in, her stepmother, wearing an elegant blue lace gown and a forced smile. In her hand, she carried the same glass of drink. "My dear Ada," she said sweetly, "this is the drink I made for you last night. It's to bless your union. Every woman in this family has taken it before their wedding. Drink it now so your marriage will be peaceful." The guests murmured softly, smiling at the sweet gesture. Mr. Daniel nodded approvingly. "That's good of you, Grace. Go ahead, Ada." But Ada didn't touch the glass. She looked at the drink, then looked at her father. Her heartbeat raced. This was it. "Daddy," she said quietly, "before I drink this, please call everyone. Uncle Jude, Aunt Ifeoma, everyone in the house. I want them to witness this moment." Grace frowned. "What's all this for? It's just a drink." Ada's voice trembled. "Please, Ma, it's important." The confusion spread through the room. Mr. Daniel sighed. "All right, everyone, please come in," he said. In a few minutes, the sitting room was packed with relatives, friends, and guests. Cameras flashed, laughter faded, and all eyes turned to Ada. She held up the glass, smiling faintly. "My stepmother made this drink for me. She said it's a family blessing," she said softly. "But before I drink it, I want to show you something." Grace's face changed instantly. "What do you mean?" Ada turned to Chioma. "Please play the video." Chioma took her phone and connected it to the television. The room went silent as the video began to play. On the screen, Grace appeared in the kitchen the night before, pouring something from a nylon bag into the same drink. Her voice came through clearly. "By tomorrow morning, she will be gone. No one will ever suspect me." The room gasped. Someone screamed. Mr. Daniel's face went pale. He staggered backward, holding the chair for support. "Grace?" he whispered, his voice shaking. Is this true?" Grace froze where she stood, her eyes wide. Sweat rolled down her face. "It's a lie. This is fake. She's lying. She's trying to destroy me." Ada's tears fell freely now. "Why, Ma? What did I ever do to you? Why do you hate me so much?" Grace's lips trembled. She looked around desperately, but every pair of eyes in the room was fixed on her. There was no escape. Then she screamed, "Because your father never loved me. He only loved you and that dead woman. Every time I looked at you, I saw her face. Her shadow never left this house." The guests gasped. Mr. Daniel stepped forward, his voice breaking. "Grace, I trusted you. You raised my children. How could you—" "I didn't want to kill her," Grace cried, shaking her head wildly. "I just wanted her gone. I wanted peace in this house." But no one believed her anymore. The drink slipped from Ada's hand and shattered on the floor. Mr. Daniel turned to his brother. "Take her out of this house," he said coldly, "before I lose my mind." Grace fell to her knees, begging, "Please, Daniel. Please forgive me. I was not thinking." "Take her out," he shouted. Two relatives held her by the arms and led her out of the compound as guests whispered in shock. Ada stood frozen. Her gown sparkled under the light, but her heart felt heavy. The spirit's warning had come true, and the truth had finally been exposed. As the car drove Grace away, thunder rumbled faintly again, just like the night before. Ada turned toward the mango tree and whispered, "Thank you, Mummy." But even as peace began to settle, something still felt wrong. That night, as Ada prepared for the church service the next morning, she found something strange on her bed. A folded note. Her hands trembled as she opened it. The handwriting was shaky, rushed. It read, "You think it's over, But it's not. Someone else was helping her. Ada's heart froze. She looked around the empty room, fear creeping back into her chest. The wedding morning came too quickly for Ada, the soft sound of church bells mixed with the quiet hum of voices outside. The compound was already awake. Guests were arriving in colourful attire, photographers setting up their cameras, and her father walking briskly from one end of the house to the other, trying to keep things organised. But inside her room, Ada sat still on the edge of her bed, the folded note clutched tightly in her hand. You think it's over, but it's not. Someone else was helping her. Her stomach twisted. Her stepmother was already gone, thrown out of the house the night before. So who could still want her dead? She looked toward the window, her thoughts racing. Was it someone from Grace's family, or one of the house staff? The handwriting didn't look familiar. It wasn't her father's, nor any of her relatives. Ada's heart began to pound as she folded the paper and hid it inside her purse. She didn't want to spoil her own wedding, but something told her this day wasn't going to be peaceful. Downstairs, the smell of fresh flowers and perfume filled the air. Guests laughed and took pictures near the decorated archway. The white car waiting outside sparkled under the sun. Mr. Daniel smiled proudly when he saw his daughter walk down the stairs in her gown. "My angel," he whispered, "today you become someone's wife. May God protect you." Ada hugged him tightly. "Amen, Daddy." But as they stepped out, she noticed someone standing quietly by the corner of the compound. Grace's younger brother, Chike. He was dressed in a black suit, his expression cold. Ada's chest tightened. What was he doing here? He hadn't been invited. When their eyes met, he smiled faintly, not the smile of a friend, but something darker. "Congratulations, Sister Ada," he said quietly. "It's good to see everything worked out." His tone made her uneasy. "Thank you," she replied carefully, her voice low. He stepped closer, leaning toward her. "Grace sends her greetings," he whispered. "She said you should enjoy your last happy day." Ada froze. "What did you say?" But before she could say more, Kioma called from the car, "Ada, come on, we're late." Chika smiled again and walked away slowly, blending into the crowd. Ada's hand shook as she entered the car. Her mind was spinning. Was he the one who wrote the note? Was Grace still plotting something from afar? At the church, the atmosphere was beautiful. White flowers lined the aisle, soft music filled the air, and sunlight streamed through the tall glass windows. The guests clapped as Ada walked in, her gown shimmering under the light. Her groom, Emmanuel, stood waiting at the altar, tall, gentle, and smiling proudly. He reached for her hand as she approached, whispering, "You look like an angel." But even in that moment, Ada's eyes darted around nervously. She couldn't shake off the feeling that someone was watching her. The ceremony began. The pastor's voice echoed through the church. Everything seemed fine, until Ada noticed something strange. One of the bridesmaids, Ngozi, Grace's niece, kept glancing toward Ada's bag, which Kioma was holding. Each time Kioma set it down, Ngozi's eyes followed it. At first, Ada tried to ignore it. Maybe she was just imagining things. But then, during the exchange of vows, Kioma accidentally dropped the bag beside the flower stand. Ngozi bent down to help her, and Ada saw her slip something small inside the bag before standing up. Ada's breath caught. She couldn't interrupt the ceremony, not in front of everyone, but she knew she had to check. When the vows ended and the church erupted in applause, Ada leaned close to Kioma. "Please bring my purse," she whispered urgently. Kioma handed it over, confused. "What's wrong?" Ada opened it quietly, pretending to check her phone. Inside, tucked beside her lipstick, was a small folded nylon. The same type Grace had used the night before. Her heart almost stopped. Her hands trembled so badly she almost dropped it. "Kioma," she whispered. "Grace's niece put something in my bag." Kioma's eyes widened. "Are you sure?" Ada nodded. "Exactly like the one from last night." Kioma looked around quickly. "We can't make a scene here. Let's tell your dad when we get home." But Ada shook her head. "No. I have to find out what's inside now." She turned toward Emmanuel. He was busy shaking hands with guests, smiling, completely unaware of the storm brewing behind him. Ada slipped out quietly toward the church restroom. The tiled walls were cool and echoing. She locked the door behind her, took a deep breath, and unfolded the nylon carefully. Inside it was a white powder, fine, odorless, and deadly looking. Ada's knees went weak. It was poison. Again. She covered her mouth to stop herself from screaming, her vision blurred with tears. The spirit had warned her again. It wasn't over. Grace wasn't working alone. Suddenly, she heard footsteps outside the restroom door. They were slow, deliberate. Someone was standing there. She froze, holding her breath. Then a soft voice came through the door. "Ada, open the door." It was Ngozi. Ada's heart pounded. "What do you want?" "Just to talk," Ngozi said calmly. "You shouldn't have looked in the bag. You were supposed to drink it after the reception." Ada gasped. "You're the one helping her." Ngozi's tone turned cold. "She's my aunt. You ruined her life. You deserve this." Ada backed away from the door. "If you come in, I'll scream." Ngozi chuckled softly. "Go ahead. No one will believe you. They all think you're nervous because it's your wedding day." Ada looked around desperately. There was no other way out. Her phone was still inside her purse. Her hands shook as she began recording again, holding the phone close to her chest. Then the door handle began to twist slowly. Ada's heart raced. "God, please help me," she whispered. The handle clicked open. Ngozi's face appeared at the door, her eyes dark and sharp. "You shouldn't have survived last night," she said coldly, "but don't worry, I'll finish what my aunt started." Ada screamed. Her voice echoed through the church corridor. Guests began to turn toward the sound, whispering. Emmanuel dropped his cup and ran. "Ada!" he shouted. Inside the restroom, the phone fell to the floor as Ngozi lunged forward. The scream tore through the church like thunder. Guests froze mid-conversation. The pastor dropped his Bible. Emmanuel sprinted toward the restroom, his heart pounding wildly. "Ada!" he shouted again, pushing past chairs and startled bridesmaids. Inside, chaos had already begun. Ada struggled as Ngozi grabbed her wrist, trying to snatch the phone from her hand. The phone hit the wall and slid across the floor, still recording. Ada fought back with all her strength, her veil tearing as she shoved Ngozi toward the sink. "Stop it," Ada cried, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Why are you doing this?" Ngozi's eyes burned with hatred. "You destroyed my aunt's life. She was humiliated because of you." "She tried to kill me," Ada screamed. Ngozi raised her hand, holding a small silver ring. "And now I'll finish what she started. This ring has enough poison to stop your heart in seconds." Ada's body went cold. She kicked the basin hard, knocking Ngozi off balance, and darted toward the door. But before she could reach it, Ngozi pulled her back by her gown, sending both of them crashing onto the tiled floor. The sound echoed through the church hall. Emmanuel reached the door and kicked it open. "Ada!" He froze at the sight, his bride pinned down, the other woman's hand gripping a ring like a knife. Without thinking, he lunged forward, grabbing Ngozi by the arm and dragging her off Ada. The ring flew from her hand and rolled under the toilet stall. "Let me go," Ngozi screamed, kicking and thrashing. Guests poured in behind Emmanuel, Mr. Daniel, Kioma, and two ushers. Shock covered every face. Ada sat trembling, her white gown stained, her hair loose, her eyes wide with tears. Mr. Daniel's face darkened. Ngozi, what is the meaning of this? Ngozi said nothing. She struggled, panting, her face red with fury. You all think Ada is innocent. You don't know what she's done. What she's done, Chioma spat, pointing to the floor where the ring lay. You were about to kill her. Emmanuel's hands shook as he held Ngozi's arm tighter. Who sent you? Ngozi's lip trembled. She told me to do it. Who? Mr. Daniel demanded. Ngozi's eyes darted toward the door, as if afraid of something unseen. My aunt, and someone else. Someone else, Ada whispered weakly. Before she could say more, a policeman who had been invited to the wedding for crowd control rushed in, alerted by the noise. What's happening here? Mr. Daniel turned to him. Officer, please arrest this girl. She tried to poison my daughter. As the officer handcuffed Ngozi, she laughed bitterly. You can arrest me, but it won't stop him. He was the one who gave her the poison. The room fell silent. Mr. Daniel's eyes narrowed. Who? Ngozi looked directly at him. Your driver, Musa. The one you trust more than anyone else. Gasps filled the air. Musa, Chioma echoed. He's been with the family for years. Ngozi nodded weakly. He was the one who brought the nylon to my aunt. He said Grace promised him a lot of money. He told me what to do this morning. Ada's mind spun. She remembered the driver always being around, quiet, obedient, always listening. Could he really be part of this? Emmanuel helped her up, whispering, Don't worry. We'll find out the truth. Within minutes, the police surrounded the church compound. The wedding guests were restless, whispering and murmuring. Mr. Daniel, now pale with anger and disbelief, ordered that Musa be brought in immediately. 2 officers dragged him inside from the car park. He looked confused and frightened, still wearing his driver's uniform. Sir, what's going on? Musa asked nervously. Mr. Daniel stepped forward, voice shaking. Musa, did you give poison to my wife or her niece? Musa's eyes widened. Sir? No. Sir, I don't know anything about poison. Ngozi shouted from the corner. Liar! You told me in the morning to put it in her bag. You even gave me the nylon. Musa shook his head violently. No, she's lying. Madam Grace told me to drop something in the kitchen yesterday, but I didn't know what it was. The police officer turned to Mr. Daniel. Sir, with your permission, we'll search his vehicle. Minutes later, they returned with a small white container and a folded note from the glove compartment. The note was in Grace's handwriting. It read, Keep this safe until the morning. Ngozi knows what to do. I will pay you after. A loud cry escaped Ada's lips. Mr. Daniel stumbled back, holding his chest. The truth was finally undeniable. The officer cuffed Musa beside Ngozi. You both will explain this at the station. Ngozi started crying. She promised to send me abroad. She said Ada took everything that was hers. Mr. Daniel's voice thundered. She took nothing. Grace destroyed herself. The crowd outside had gathered, shocked beyond words. Some were recording, others praying loudly. Ada leaned weakly on Emmanuel's shoulder. Her wedding gown, once a symbol of joy, was now covered with dust and tears. Why, Emmanuel? She whispered. Why can't people just be happy for others? Emmanuel held her tightly. Because not everyone can stand to see someone shine, he said softly. Later that evening, the police vehicle carried Ngozi and Musa away. The church was quiet now, filled with whispers and sighs. Guests had left in confusion, unsure if the wedding would even continue. Ada sat quietly near the altar, her head bowed. The stained glass light fell gently on her face. Mr. Daniel walked slowly toward her and knelt beside her. My daughter, he said gently, I failed you. I should have protected you better. Ada shook her head. No, Daddy. You didn't fail. Mummy did not let them succeed. Mr. Daniel blinked. What do you mean? She looked up, her eyes shimmering with tears. Last night, she came to me. Mummy's spirit. She told me everything. He stared at her, stunned. You mean Oge? Yes, Ada said softly. She whispered to me. She saved my life. Mr. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. He touched his chest. Oge, even in death, you still protect our child. But just as the air began to settle, Emmanuel's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and froze. It was a message from an unknown number. The text read, You may have caught the small fish, but the river is still deep. Grace was only a messenger. Emmanuel looked up, fear spreading across his face. Ada, he said slowly, this isn't over yet. She turned toward him, her voice barely a whisper. Then who sent her? The church lights flickered slightly, and a cold wind passed through the open door. Outside, a car engine started and sped off into the night. The night air was cold in Abuja. The flashing lights of the police vehicles faded in the distance as they drove Ngozi and Musa away. The compound that had once been filled with laughter and wedding songs was now quiet, except for the faint hum of the generator and the soft cries of a few guests still in shock. Ada sat quietly beside Emmanuel in the sitting room, still wearing her now creased wedding gown. Her father sat opposite her, his face tired and heavy with worry. On the table between them lay Emmanuel's phone, the message glowing on the screen. You may have caught the small fish, but the river is still deep. Mr. Daniel sighed deeply. I don't understand this anymore, he said quietly. Who could possibly hate us this much? Ada rubbed her palms together nervously. Daddy, whoever sent that message, must have been controlling Grace all along. Emmanuel frowned. Someone powerful enough to use them both, and close enough to know every detail of this family. The room fell silent. The ticking of the wall clock echoed louder than ever. Then Ada spoke softly. I think I know who. They both turned to her. Who? Mr. Daniel asked. Ada looked toward the window. The way Grace always spoke, she used to say, He'll be proud when this is done. I thought she was talking about God, but now I think she meant someone else. Who, Ada? Emmanuel asked again. Ada took a deep breath. Daddy, do you remember your business partner, Mr. Kelvin? Mr. Daniel's brows furrowed. Kelvin, the one who tried to take over the company 5 years ago? I fired him after he stole money. Yes, Ada said, her voice trembling. Grace mentioned his name once when she thought I wasn't listening. She said, if Kelvin helps us, everything will be easy. Mr. Daniel's eyes widened. That man swore revenge on me. He told me I'd lose everything I loved. Emmanuel leaned forward. Then it fits. He probably found Grace and used her bitterness to destroy your family. Before they could say another word, a knock came at the door. Everyone froze. Emmanuel stood slowly, motioning for Ada to stay back. He opened the door slightly, and there stood a tall man in a black suit, smiling faintly. Good evening, he said smoothly. I hope I'm not interrupting. Mr. Daniel's voice trembled. Kelvin? Kelvin stepped inside, uninvited. His eyes scanned the room like a wolf entering a sheepfold. I came to congratulate the bride, he said calmly, though it seems I missed the party. Emmanuel clenched his fists. What do you want? Kelvin's smile never faded. To finish what I started. Ada's breath caught. You were the one. Behind everything. He turned to her with a cold grin. You're smarter than your stepmother. Grace was too emotional. But you, my dear, you have your mother's fire. Mr. Daniel stepped in front of Ada. Kelvin, if you touch her. Kelvin raised his hand. Relax, old friend. I don't need to touch her. I just wanted you to know what losing feels like. You destroyed my business, my name. so I decided to destroy your joy." His calmness made the air feel even colder. "You used Grace," Emmanuel said angrily. "You made her poison her own stepdaughter." Kelvin shrugged. "People like Grace are easy to control. I just reminded her who the real problem was, your precious Ada, the princess of the Daniel family." Ada's eyes glistened with tears. "You're a monster." Kelvin's smile vanished. "No, Ada, I'm justice." He reached into his pocket. The room tensed, but before he could pull anything out, the door burst open again. "Police, don't move!" 4 officers stormed in, guns raised. Kelvin froze, stunned. Mr. Daniel exhaled in relief. Emmanuel quickly moved Ada behind him as the officers handcuffed Kelvin. "Sir," the lead officer said, "we traced the threatening message to this man's phone. He's been under surveillance since this morning." Kelvin's face twisted with rage. "You think this is over? You'll regret—" The officer cut him off. "You'll finish that sentence at the station." They dragged him outside as Ada's knees gave way. She fell to the floor, crying. Emmanuel knelt beside her, pulling her close. "It's over," he whispered. "It's really over." Mr. Daniel sat heavily on the couch, covering his face. For the first time in years, he wept. Not from pain, but from relief. Hours later, the compound was quiet again. The guests had gone home. The moonlight poured softly through the window. Ada stood outside near the mango tree, the same place where her mother's spirit had appeared 2 nights before. She held a white rose in her hand. The air was cool, peaceful. Crickets sang in the grass. "Mummy," she whispered softly, "thank you for saving me." A gentle breeze brushed her cheek, warm, comforting, like a hand wiping away her tears. She smiled faintly. Behind her, Emmanuel walked up slowly, wrapping his arms around her waist. "You're not alone anymore," he said quietly. Ada turned to face him, her eyes soft and full of gratitude. "I know, but I'll never forget what happened." He smiled. "You don't have to forget. Just remember that light always wins." She nodded. Together they walked back toward the house where her father waited with a smile and open arms. Inside, laughter returned once more, gentle, pure and real. The wedding was postponed to the next day. When Ada finally walked down the aisle again, the hall was brighter than ever. The choir sang softly, and as she reached the altar, she looked up, and for a split second she saw her mother's spirit standing near the doorway, smiling proudly before fading away. Ada's heart filled with peace. She whispered, "Rest now, Mummy. We're safe." Months later, Grace wrote a letter from her hometown asking for forgiveness. She confessed everything, how Kelvin had controlled her, how guilt haunted her every night. Ada read it and smiled sadly. "I forgive you," she whispered, "but I'll never forget what love and truth saved me from." And as she placed the letter in her drawer beside her wedding photo, a cool wind drifted in through the window, soft and gentle, carrying the faint scent of lavender. She smiled. "Good night, Mummy." The light flickered softly. The night grew still. And for the first time since her mother's death, Ada slept without fear. Please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories.